Quick, what's the first thing you think of when I say PC gaming? No, not that. Wow, really not that. I thought you were going to say mods. I guess I kind of misjudged you, but no, your thing is fine too. Let's stick with a video about mods though, for everyone's sake, shall we? Here are 9 fan-created masterpieces that breathe new vitality into old games and once again make them essential inhabitants of your hard drive. If you have even a passing interest in RPGs, chances are you've played and replayed the punishingly slow intro to 2011 Skyrim so many times by now that you can count how many rotations of each wagon wheel it takes to get to Helgen. It's a barrier of tedium between you and that new persuasive Breton Alchemist build you've been meaning to try out, and something must be done. Alternate Start doesn't just remove the vanilla intro, it replaces it with all manner of lore-friendly alternatives that immediately steep your new character in a silky sheen of enigma. Maybe you were shipwrecked in the icy northern waters, perhaps you broke out of jail. Or, and let's be honest, this is the most true to life, perhaps you were just drinking in a tavern when the dragon laid Helgen to waste. Whatever your preference, it's strangely exciting to start such a familiar game from an entirely new perspective. Revision does a clever thing. It mods Ironstorm's Deus Ex so that it plays like the game you remember, not the low-res 17-year-old reality. The cyberpunk atmosphere is still so thick in the air you can practically drink it, but in Revision you can actually read the labels on food packets and talk to characters with facial features. As well as the obvious visual tweaks, there's a total overhaul of combat balancing and weapon attributes to make the experience a bit less unwieldy for modern hands, which in turn gives you more confidence to chuck gas grenades around like the cyborg prankster you always dreamed of being. EA's F1 Challenge enjoyed a protracted lifespan in the early noughties thanks to a talented modding community that put the tobacco logos back on the cars and produced season updates right up to 2007. But in no one's wildest dreams at the time could this mod ever be conceived. F1 Challenge VB adds every single car, driver, track and livery variation from 1950 to present. In other words, it mods the entire history of Formula 1 into one game. Yes, it lacks a tiny bit of visual polish by, say, Project Cars 2 standard, and DIY commentary from lone modder VB probably isn't broadcast quality. But those minor concessions are absolutely worth it for the thrill of hurtling through Switzerland in a deadly 150-mile-an-hour cigar on carriage wheels. In 2004, Troika Games released a visceral RPG that would be remembered for 3 things. 1, its devil-may-care attitude towards subtitle grammar and brevity.
Oh man, wait! Say that again!
2, being absolutely wonderful at world building and atmosphere. 3, the bugs. Boy howdy, the bugs. The catchy VTMR unofficial patch isn't a dramatic visual transformation like some of the others on this list. Instead, the entirely fan-made creation fixes all the bits Troika never got round to, mines the original data files, and adds content the devs left out due to time constraints back in 2004, like side quests, additional dialogue, and proper class balancing. The result is an experience you remember why you loved, without all the hateful niggles you banished from your memory. Kind of like your first relationship, only with feeding on rats instead of burning compilation CDs and spending 8 hours on MSN Messenger a day.
Hey, need a date?
While most of the gaming world is still perfectly content playing Warcraft 3 15 years after release, a small and esoteric community has built around a mod called Defense of the Ancients 2. Taking the traditional RTS and stripping it down to a 3-lane, 1-character per player setup, Dota, as it's sometimes known, offers a completely new style of play. It's pretty obscure, but you might have heard of it. They sometimes do super low-key competitions with a bit of pocket change for the prize pool. Each character, known as a hero, can be upgraded throughout the course of each round to perform even deadlier attacks on tiny wee goblins and fire-spitting enemy towers. Obviously, it makes for a much more simplistic tactical experience than Warcraft, and in truth is a bit niche to ever catch the mainstream's imagination, but Defense of the Ancients 2 is still worth a look at of curiosity to see how far modders can push the RTS we still all play in droves, Warcraft 3. Don't worry, we know you know what Dota 2 is, because everyone knows what Dota 2 is.
Yes, me lord. All right.
If an entity within the universe contains lines of code, you can bet someone's tried to modify that code at some point to make it more Lord of the Ringsy. The Third Age is a particularly fine example of this universal law, and undoubtedly one of the most fully realised. It takes the Kingdoms expansion for Medieval 2 Total War and turns it into a lore-rich Tolkien-flavoured grand strategy, the likes of which we've never actually seen from a professional studio with the proper licence. If you always felt that the elves could have beaten back Sauron's orc army all on their own in the films, the Third Age is your chance to put your mithril where your mouth is. And if you felt secretly disappointed that the tyranny of man prevailed in the end and beat the orcs, firstly, you're a monster, and secondly, you can play as a faction of Mordor here and realise your sick fantasy. Just know that as soon as you click the select button, you're immediately entered onto some kind of list. Probably. Remember Unreal Tournament 2004? Those were the days, weren't they? Moving through futuristic jungle gyms at a full sprint in giggling ragdoll animations. It was a simpler time. But for modder Long Ewan, it was simply a foundation for his own Resi-inspired vision. What Out of Hell does is take away absolutely everything that makes UT 2004 recognisable and rebuilds it as a 90s survival horror that would surely earn a slow, approving nod from Shinji Mikami. Out of Hell brings written dialogue and moody walks through derelict streets to a base game that could previously only just string together two manly grunts. It brings character exposition, platforming puzzles, and, well, frankly, impossible combat. Look at that guy. How many shots can these things take? Oh, and there's 3 of them now, are there? Great. No, good mod though. There's a perverse sort of genius about this one. GTA 5's world map is one of the most impressive and sophisticated feats of game design ever. This mod removes all the water from it. Sounds silly. Is silly. But by changing this small detail, the No Water mod opens up acres of new territory to explore as never before. Driving over coral and seaweed in a pickup truck has a sort of rebellious thrill to it, and for GTA conspiracy theorists searching for Atlantis' secrets, it's a chance to conduct some valuable field research too. Admittedly, the vast stretches of dead beach sea life gets a bit gross and morbid after a while, but what doesn't in GTA? It's not scathingly harsh to say that while Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl was fun, it perhaps didn't live up to its full potential. But as with so many PC games, disappointment is temporary and modding is eternal. Fortunately, in fact somewhat miraculously, a team called Desawave took it upon themselves to create a standalone mod which ticks all the boxes that Stalker's early alpha builds promised to. As well as beautifying the nuclear wasteland, it expands maps, adds side quests, improves the vehicles, tweaks the monster AI, and dozens of other things that make you go, huh, cool, when you notice them in game. This is one of those mods that feels like it was created simply by enough people wishing it into existence, all humming the same cosmic frequency in unison. Well done, everyone. With such a passionate community, you're sure to find a PC mod to tickle your fancy for almost every game in existence. Let us know your top mods in the comments, like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to Logitech G for more weekly shows.